A popular question that I receive is, which is better, procedural programming or object-oriented programming? In this video, I will teach by example on both styles and let you decide. Let's start with object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming is based on the concept of objects, which contain properties, and methods. Objects are instantiations of classes that can have unique properties as multiple objects are. Whoa, 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 whoa! You lost me. Can we try that again? Okay. An object is... Geez, this is hard. Let's just go to an example. We'll use PHP. We won't use the standard car example. Let's just use something you may find on this page. Ah, here's an example. Lots of nice people here. Let's say you want to build out the comments feed below. Clearly, the style of each comment looks the same, so in order to avoid duplication, we can write our code in a way that allows each object to fill the same piece of HTML with different information in each one. So let's write a comment. OMG, yep, got it, yep, I learned in 10 minutes, yeah, and yeah. Okay, when you type a comment like that and hit submit, it is packaged up for you and sent to the YouTube server. And here's our first example of a procedure. You see, this procedure is standalone. Procedural styles are popular for common tasks that can be used everywhere, or as a way to catch AJAX calls such as this one. But let's talk about objects first. Here, we have a comment object, and we set the property of the comment using this method. As you can see, there isn't much code here. That's because most of it is hidden behind the class. Your goal should be to group your tasks together so that they can be used over and over again. So let's take a look at what some of this code looks like behind the scenes. You see where it says new here? That's creating an instance of the comment class. When called like this, any logic I put into the constructor is executed. You'll want to use this method to initialize any variables or anything else that needs to happen each time you create a new comment object. And the second line is set contents, which is a method. You can see that behind the scenes, it sets the author ID, author name, date, and the comment text of that specific comment. And below that, we have getHTML, which is another method of the comment class. And we're echoing it back out into the client so that it can be displayed in the browser without the need to reload the page. And there you have it. The comment has been displayed for the world to see. How about to load all the comments? Here's another procedural function. Take a look at this method here. We're using the same code to loop through each message we get from the database to display it to the world. And here's what it looks like. Before we go any further, we skipped a couple parts. We didn't talk about the comment model. You see, the comment model can store information to the database. It can also get information from the database. But let's think this through for a minute. What is contained within the comment object? If you recall, it was the author ID, the author name, the date, the comment, and the video ID. Which of these is missing from here? It's the name. With a little relational database skills, we can get the name from the person model just by linking the person IDs. But that's not the focus of this video. What this really shows is that we can use inheritance to share common logic between classes, and in this case, store the information to the database. This brings us to our next topic, inheritance. Here's a quick example of how inheritance works. The base class called database model can have as many children as we want to give it. In this case, we have two, comments model and person model. This is a common architecture people use to communicate with databases. By simply adding the extends keyword to the child class, we're able to use methods from the parent class or the child class on the same objects. For example, all models need to have a connection to the database. So a parent database class can provide that connection, and each of the child models can represent a table in the database. In PHP, you can simply call the parent methods by using the parent keyword. Now let's get something out of the way. You'll notice the static keyword being used. Let's talk about that. The static keyword allows me to call my methods that are shared between all objects. Just think. There's only a table called table comments, so having multiple objects that are individually declaring the table really isn't needed. Same goes for the database. There's only one, so we're using the static keyword to allow us to use methods of the class without having an instance of that class. Let's talk about one more thing, visibility. You'll notice that there's a private, a protected, and a public here. The private keyword is restricted to being used inside the class only. It protects the variables and methods from being altered or used outside of the class when you don't want them to be. Protected variables are able to be used by the class and the children of that class, but not outside of it. And finally, public variables and methods can be used outside of your class in your main program flow. You should limit public variables to only those that really need to be used outside. And believe it or not, that's all the logic we need right now. So let's bring it all together. Someone posts a nice comment, says nice things. Thanks for that. The comment is packaged and sent to the server. The server selects the appropriate procedure to run. Insert comment looks like a good choice. The comment object is created. The constructor is called upon creation. Next, we learned about methods. Set contents is a method. Let's call it. What do we do inside though? We initialize all the variables that we need to store into the database. Then what do we do after that? We call a static method called store. Store does not have to be called by an object. Store can be called by itself. Store does the logic to ensure the data is input into the database into the proper format. Store calls its parent class to insert the data into the database. Why? Because the comment model extends the database model, and each table in my database will have its own class, just like this one. We're almost done. Let's execute that query. On success, we're back to the main flow, and it's time to send the HTML back to the browser so Amy can see her newly posted comment without reloading the page. For super cool programmers, try using JavaScript to clone existing HTML instead of sending HTML back. So to sum it up, here's what we talked about. Methods, objects, inheritance, the static keyword, and visibility. Here's what we didn't talk about. Abstract classes, interfaces, polymorphism, overriding methods, the final keyword, single versus multiple inheritance, and namespaces. So as you can see, object-oriented programming can do a lot more for us than we showed today, but most of the things that you need to get done, you'll be able to get done with what we taught you today.